So tonight I walked out to the pond and we have a little bit of a problem going on. I've got a bunch of traps that we raise tilapia in our ponds over the summertime, and they won't survive the wintertime. So I've been setting traps out trying to catch all the baby tilapia to move them into tanks. We have a heated barn where we're going to try to start commercially growing tilapia this year. So we have these little traps set all out, and tonight when we come out, my wife come out earlier and she noticed that the pond has dropped 4 to 5 inches today. Now our pond holds water, the deep side very deep, and it holds water pretty good, but the very top 2 feet of it, it doesn't hold for traps, so we have to keep a well going 24/7. So as you can see, the pond has dropped drastically. You can see where the raccoons have come in here playing around and tearing around, and it's kind of got all my baby tilapia trapped in these shallows that if I don't get my well fixed, we're going to end up losing a bunch of fish probably. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and put a new well in tonight. Part of living the lifestyle we live, you kind of have to be prepared for everything. So in my shop, I try to keep a spare of everything that you could possibly use around homestead. So we keep a spare well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to try to put a new well in tonight and show you guys kind of how to do that. And if any of you have never put a submersible well in, we'll be able to walk you through the steps of doing that. So we'll see you up at the well. Okay, so here we are, we're up at the well, and the new well I've got actually has an extension cord with a 110 plug-in on it. The old cord that we have running up here is kind of a temporary deal, but it was hardwired in. Pardon our mess, we've acquired this land and we haven't gotten everything all put together, and it's just one of those things. So the very first thing you want to do is, if you live somewhere with the, regulations and all that, you need to make sure to have an electrician and do all that. But if you live in the country as we do, there's no codes, and I'm kind of a safety third kind of guy, so we're just going to go about it. Very first thing you do is you have the breaker turned off. So I had my wife turn the breaker off. So with that being said, I have a little electrical tester that I'm going to use because I'm worth more dead than I am alive. So I'm going to double check my wife's work before I get started. So what I'm going to do is you test this to the little cord, and we're going to make sure the cord's dead. Now if that cord was hot, this little thing would beep back and forth. And it is just a little voltage tester. You can get them at Home Depot for 15 bucks. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take and I'm going to just cut this wire from hardwiring, and I'm going to wire a plug-in right into this. So I'll cut that wire. I didn't die, so my little tester worked out pretty good. Always got to keep in mind in for safety. So then I'm going to take my little handy-dandy knife, and I'm going to strip this wire back a little ways. All right, once you get that wire stripped in, you're going to notice that there's 3 wires. There's going to be a white wire, a black wire, and an empty wire that doesn't have anything on top of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip these wires back just a little ways. Just enough to get them onto my plug-in. Now, this is kind of an emergency. I need water tonight, so I'll come back and I'll get this all kind of appropriate like it ought to be. So I want to fish this wire in here through my box. Okay, so now that I got the wire through the box, I'm going to curve these ends with my little needle nose wire pliers so I can wrap them onto my box. So, what I'm going to do, green will go to ground. Always remember green to ground. So your bare wire is your ground wire. I didn't get that bent quite deep enough. And then on your plug-in, there's a brass side and a silver side. And the way I always remember it is brass to black and white to bright. So I always remembered that, and it seemed to work out pretty good for me. So I have my brass side tied into my black wire, my white wire onto my silver side, and then I'll screw this back into the box. Okay, so I had my wife go turn the breaker back on. So here we have our box. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my little handy dandy tester, and you can hear it, so we know we have hot power. So our power is hooked up as it ought to be. So now I'll just take and throw this to the side. Now this well's set up a little different than it would be for a house. In a house, you'd have a pressure tank with a pressure switch on it. So basically all you would do is where the pipe comes up, you'll have a pressure tank teed off with a pressure switch on it. So when the water builds up to a certain pressure, it'll shut the pressure tank off. For what I'm doing, I run it 24/7 continual operation. I don't need pressure, I need volume. So this situation here, we just have volume. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this pipe up, and I got a screw down at the bottom that holds this hose on. So I'm gonna take and undo this hose clamp. I can't hardly move my leg. I just had knee surgery. Pardon my old crippled self. Alright, so I've got two hose clamps here that hold this hose onto my pipe that goes to my pond. So I'm going to just unhook them. Now, when you hook a well up, you want to always make sure you have a rope tied to your well so that if the pipe falls into the well, you can get it out. So you want to make dang sure something like that doesn't happen. And just work that little fitting out of the pipe. Okay, so now that I have that fitting disconnected, I'm going to just pull this pipe up out of the ground.